Good afternoon. Welcome to video 6 of the mower cell. So now we're going to start focusing on the actual program. So the first program we're going to create is the main program, and the main program is going to call all the sub-programs. So let's turn on the teach pendant. Let's go create when we're under the select, and let's call this main. So we can go main right away, enter, and we can go edit. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to call a subprogram called start, and that start is going to initialize everything and make sure the correct tool is in, make sure everything is shown on the tool rack, make sure that the conveyor belts are at its starting position. So let's go to that program. Let's create that program. So let's go to select, and then let's go create, and this one we're going to call startup. And inside here, let's make sure we're on the correct U tool. So offset frames, U tool number 1, which is nothing, no tool at all. Then we're going to call a program called home, which we made in a previous video. So call program home, so make sure the robot is now home. Now we're not putting in the actual user frames because all the user frames are being called in the individual files. So right now we're just resetting, reinitializing everything, making sure that we have the correct tool in. We're not really moving from position to position, so we do not have to put a user frame. So let's now go add a few lines of code, say about 15 or so, and then let's start adding our things. So the first thing we need to do is make sure that our starting conveyor, so our raw conveyor, is at its starting point. If you don't remember which digital items that is, you could just easily double click and then you will see the different parts. But what we need to actually double click is the machine part. So double click the machine part, which is our pallet. Here's our motion. So digital 1, when it is on, it's at its starting point. So we can just easily check, just go here and test. There's our starting point. Okay, and then we can also wait until digital 1 is on as well. So let's go inside here, new instruction, and let's go to IO. We're going to go digital 1, which is our conveyor start, is going to be on. So we're going to go on, and we're going to wait until that digital input number 1 is on as well. So that means it is at position. Input, so let's go new instruction, and we're going to go wait, and we're going to wait equal to. So wait until digital 1 is equal to on. Now just to make this a little bit simpler, let's go to the ins and outs, and let's go to type, digital, and here's digital number 1. Arrow over until you see detail, and then let's call this conveyor. We can call it conveyor raw, so the raw material. And then we just hit previous and we go back. So there's our conveyor raw, and if we go to the arrow over and we go in and out, so here's our in and out. So we're going to go over and go to detail. So this is going to be conveyor raw start, previous, and then this is going to be conveyor raw end. Just makes it easier so that we're able to find out what we're going to be utilizing. So conveyor raw start and conveyor raw end. Okay, right now it's at the end, which is why that is on. So let's go back to that program. So edit. So notice how it now stays as conveyor raw and then also conveyor raw start. So that's the first thing we're going to start. Then we also want to make sure that all our tools are on the rack. So that's going to be digital out 2, digital out 3, and digital out 4. How do I know that? We can just go in and out and go to in and out. There's our caulk, there's our suction, there's our gripper, 2, 3, and 4. So those are going to be all on in order for it to be shown. If they're off, that means they're gone. So let's go back to edit, and let's go new instruction, IO, digital output number 2, which is our caulk, should be on. New instruction, IO, digital output number 3 should be on. And then new instruction, IO, digital output number 4 should be on. So these are going to be our tool rack, making sure all our tools on our tool rack. So we have our gripper in the correct place. We have our robot at home position. We have our pallet at the start position. We have our tool rack all set up. Now we have to make sure that our end conveyor is at the correct position as well, which at the beginning. So let's rotate this around and double click our machine here. And here's the conveyor N finish deck. Let's double click it. And these are going to be digital output number 5. And then 9 and 10 is going to be our inputs. So let's go in here and let's actually name this. So digital output number 5 is going to be our conveyor finish. So I'm going to go arrow over, detail, and I'm going to go conveyor finish. Previous will bring us back. Conveyor finish. Let's arrow over, in and out. And here's going to be our 9. So let's arrow over, go detail. So this is going to be our conveyor finish. Start. And then this is going to be our conveyor finish end. So notice how the start and end, we have it at the correct position. Let's just double check that because it looks like on and off. So we may have to go back here and modify our endpoint. So I'm going to just go back to that finish deck here. And it looks like 9 is going to be at 260. Let's look at where 260 is. Test. Okay, that's at the end. So we have these actually flipped. So let's go 0 here. And then this is going to be that 2600, which is going to be the end. So let's try this. So when we are at the start point, right now, it is on. So we want to switch this as well. So on is going to be at the start point, off is going to be at the other place. So let's just make sure these things are correct and normal to everything else. So the start point is always going to be the on here, or the starting position. And then, so that will go until there. And then digital 10 is going to be at 2600. So when it gets to this position, it will have on as well. So that's where we have the on there. If I go here, test, then we have the position correct. All right, so we want this to be gone in the beginning. Okay, so we want this to be off. Let's go back to the program. And I'm going to arrow down. So new instruction. And we're going to IO digital output number 5, which is our end conveyor. And we want this to be off. So we want it out of the way because we're going to call it when the actual conveyor shows up. Then what we're going to do is wait until that happens. So we're going to go here and we're going to go wait equal to, and that wait is going to be number 10. So digital input number 10 is on. So now when I run this, everything should start initializing, and you'll notice that the gripper here, right now I have the gripper in here, should change to just nothing, and this should be in the beginning, and then this should be over here. So when I run this, home position, starting position, all the items in the rack, we have no tool at the end of our arm of tooling, and then also our pallets at the end. So this is our startup program. So let's go back to that main program. And then let's call that program. So new instruction, call program. And then we're going to do the startup. So now that we have that startup, now we can actually start calling the individual programs that we need. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to call the program that the pallet is going to run down our conveyor belt. So let's create that program. So we're going to go select, create, and this program is going to call, I'm going to just call it the program 1 underscore, and this is going to be my bring pallet. Then I'm going to go to detail. Because there's not going to be any motion here, we can turn off our motion group mask to the asterisk, okay, because we're not going to have any robot movement. It's just clearly just the conveyor belt. So let's go to end here, brings us to here, and all we're going to do is bring the conveyor belt down the runway. So we're going to go input digital number 1, which is our conveyor belt raw. And then we want this to be off, which means it's going to move to the end. Then we are going to wait until that digital input number 2, which is our conveyor N, is on. So then let's try this out. Run cycle. Coming down our way to our position. Awesome. So let's go select and let's find the end program, which is a lot easier just to find it up here. Let's go to the main, enter on that. And now we're going to call that conveyor. New instruction, call program, once we turn the teach pendant on. And we're going to do that PR1 bring pallet. So now we're starting up, pallet's going to come down. When we get the pallet to come down, then we're going to need to grab the correct tool, which we're going to start picking up the different parts. We're going to start with the mower deck, so we're going to need the suction. So we already created the suction pickup program, so let's go grab that. So let's go new instruction, call program, and let's find the tool suction pickup. So here's tool suction pick. So once we have the suction, then let's bring it back to home. So right here, new instruction, call home. So we're back here, and then we'll move to this position here in which we're going to create the program called the mower deck pickup and then also place. So let's go to select, create new program, and I'm going to call this program program number 2. So I'm going to go PR2, program 2, mower, pick, and place. So the mower deck pick and place. And this is going to have motion, so we're not going to do anything with the motion group. We're going to leave it as is. So let's go enter and then enter again into our program. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that we have the correct tool. Even though we grabbed the suction, we want to make sure that we are correctly in the suction as well. So let's go new instruction, arrow over, and we're going to go to the offset frames, tool number, and we're going to be using tool number 2, which is our suction, just to make sure. Then we want to make sure that our position tool offset or position register tool offset is the correct number. So let's go new instruction, and let's go to registers, and we're going to go register equal to position register number 3, which we have as our tool offset, and we're going to reset the X, Y, and Z. So we're going to reset the X first to be 0. Then we're going to do the Y component, number 2, that's going to be 0. And then we're going to have the tool offset to be 400. Okay, so we're going to be 400 millimeters above our part. So let's go new instruction, registers equal to position register number 3, and the Z component, we're going to make 400 millimeters. Okay, so we have this set up at each program, so it automatically redoes the tool offset for each program to be whatever it needs to be. So let's now add a few lines of code, say like 15 or 16 or so. So this is our starting point. So now what we need to do is from the home position, we need to go over to the deck. But first, let's make sure that we are in the correct tool position or the correct tool. So we want to turn on the suction. There's our suction. And we need to set up a couple position registers for our pick and place. So I'm going to go to data, and I'm going to go down to position register, say number 20, and then I'm going to call this my deck pickup. And then 21 is going to be my deck drop off. So now what we need to do is go to these positions. So I'm going to find where my machines are. Here's my conveyor start, and then also my tool rack. We don't need anything with the tool rack, we just need the conveyor start. So I'm going to click the pallet here, double click it, and then I'm going to go to the parts. Here's the part, and we want to move to our mower deck. So click the mower deck, and we're going to move to. So now that we're at that position, we're going to save that pickup. So go right here, go shift record. So now that position is recorded. So now what we need to do is get the drop off. So click here, double click the rack or the jig, go to parts, and then go to the mower deck, move to. There's our drop off. Let's go to mower deck drop off, shift record, and now we have those two recorded. So now we have the pickup and drop off. Makes programming a lot easier to do. So let's hit OK. And now let's go back to the program. Here's our program. So what we're going to do now, from the home position here, we're going to go down to our mower deck. So we're going to go a joint movement to the position register number 20, and we're going to have it just above. So we're going to have the tool offset position register number 3. So we're now 400 millimeters above our part. So let's see what this looks like so far. So I'm going to just go on step mode, shift forward. So you can see now we're 400 millimeters above our part. Now we don't have to be, we can be 200 millimeters if we want to, or we can linear down even closer if we wanted to. So now that we're to this position with the position register offset, we are now going to go down to our position as a linear movement. So we're going to go linear movement, fine, and we're going to go down at 500 millimeters per second, and we are going down to that position register number 20. So if I shift forward, now I'm down at that point. So now what we need to do is we need to pick up that part. So we're going to call that raw motor deck pickup. And that's a simulation program that we created in video number 3. So the raw mower deck pickup. So let's call that program raw mower deck pickup. So now we're picking up that mower in simulation mode. And now we need to move up to that 400 millimeters away. So I'm going to go linear motion, position register number 20, with that tool offset of 400. Tool offset, position register number 3. So now we're picking up and then moving over. So let's fully run this program to see what's going on. Just make sure that we're not running into any rack or anything. So let's home this first. Move the motor to home. So after it grabs that suction, it moves home. And then let's run the program, see where we're at. And we can move it up a little bit quicker. So let's move that speed up just a hair bit. We don't have to go that 100 millimeters per second. We could probably pick it up at a pretty decent speed. So maybe 1,000 millimeters per second. Making sure that my teach pendant is on. So now we're picking up a little bit faster. So now, if you notice that we're going to move over to this position right here. So if we do that, and we do it as a joint movement, which is going to be the quickest, it may run into this fence. So we may want to actually move this over inwards a little bit and then joint over so that we're not going to hit this fence here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find that little green dot there. And then I'm going to move this inwards. So, and I'm going to do a joint movement to that. So add point, joint movement, and I'm going to do a continuous movement. And I'm not going to do a full continuous. I'm going to do maybe 30% continuous, which means it's going to continuously move to the next position, which is going to be my drop off here. Okay, so we're going to continuously move to the next position with a joint movement to our position register number 21, which is the drop-off area with the offset. Tool offset number 3. So let's check this out, make sure it's not running into the rack here. We just run this from here. There we go. So notice how it moved in and then over very quickly, all the way down. So now what we're going to do is linear down. So let's turn teach pendant back on. We're going to linear down 500 millimeters per second to our position register 21. So we're down at position register number 21. And now what we're going to do is we're going to drop off that mower deck. So we're going to call program, that simulation program, and it's going to be the raw mower deck drop off. Now what we need to do is to start a timer, and that timer allows us to figure out from the moment that we place this to the moment we put it onto the actual conveyor belt. Let's figure out that time so that we have to be able to turn things on and make things disappear during those times to make the simulation look like it's actually happening in an industrial setting. So if I actually go to that mower deck, holding assembly, and if I go to simulation, here's where that allow part to be placed and destroyed. That's where that time comes into play. So in order to figure out where this time is, or the vicinity of this time, which you may have to change and modify a little bit, we need to do that timer 1 start and timer 1 end, right when we drop it off and right when we place it onto the conveyor belt. So let's go new instruction, miscellaneous, timer. So the first thing we need to do is turn that timer on. So we're going to go to start. So we're going to use timer 1 and we're going to start. Then what we need to do is we're going to reset it right away, just to make sure that it's resetted. Miscellaneous timer number 1, and we're going to reset. So now that we resetted that timer, let's move our robot arm up. So add move point, we're going linear up with no parts, so we're going to just do 1,000, and then we are going to do position register number 21, which is our drop off, and then we're going to do that tool offset number 3. Okay, so let's actually see this run. There we go. So now that we place this, now what we need to do is we're going to do a tool change and grab the caulk gun so that we can put a bead of caulk around each of these holes. So let's do that tool change now, but first let's add this to our main program. So I'm going to go up to where our programs are. Let's go to the main program, and we're going to call that pick and place. So we're going to add new instruction, call program, and let's find that pick and place. Program number 2, mower pick and place. Now what we need to do is we need to drop off that suction. So we're going to go new instruction, call program, and then we're going to find that suction, drop off. And then what we're going to do is grab the caulk gun. So let's go new instruction, call program, and we're going to grab that caulk gun. So tool caulk pickup. So now that we have that caulk pickup, let's run to the home position, and then let's see where we're at. So I'm going to run this program. Let's see how it works. Awesome. So now that we have our caulk gun, now we're ready to start programming for the beads of caulk. So that will be the next video, and we'll continue trucking along with the program.